This is how to paint 6 watercolor cards in the one sitting. I started out by taking 6 pieces of watercolor paper and I folded them over. I found this is the most efficient way to create a watercolor card. So the paper I'm using is a really beautiful quality watercolor paper. My method for painting each of the trees is going to be the same on each one. What I will vary on each card, though, will be the colours, the tones. And you can see that I've got mixed up on my palette on the left-hand side some yellow, some grey, some brown colours. And by mixing up all the colours in advance, it allows you to drop in and out of each of the colours and vary it along the way. You can also see that I've got 3 different brushes leaning into each pile of the colours, and this means that I'm not having to wash my brush in between changing colour. It makes me faster if I can just grab the brush, paint it a little bit, dump that brush, grab another brush. Though you can see that in that particular instance there, I'm just using the same brush and continuing to paint. It really doesn't matter whether or not you do switch your brushes or what method you use to get there. What matters is that you paint and really enjoy yourself. So I've nearly finished my first card. So on the next card, I'm just swapping that one over and moving the next one into position. My method is to come in with a really light color. I'm using a lovely watery mix of yellow, and then straight as soon as I've dabbed in some lovely marks, and you can see that I've left lots of spaces, I go straight in for the orangey brown color, and then I'm dabbing the little bits of orange into the bottom of each of the yellow dabs. And that way I'm getting beautiful wet in wet things happening. And once I think I've added enough of the brown, I pick up my third color, which in this case is grey. But the third color could be anything you like. And in fact, I've got a brown on the palette as well. From this angle, you can see that it looks quite grey, quite green, the grey that I've got mixed up. I'm using a little tiny liner brush to come down and suggest a tree trunk and some little bits of grass, and then I'm going to bring the liner brush and suggest the left-hand side to that trunk. I'm dipping in and out of water, I'm dipping in and out of the colour, and using that same little liner brush I've just added branches and more of the trunk, and I drag the loaded liner brush in between the little spaces. There's an Australian artist called Jenny McNaughton who has a phrase that I love to use, and it is, when you're painting trees, leave space for the birds to fly through. I have no idea whether or not it's Jenny McNaughton's idea, but I definitely got that idea of leaving spaces for the birds to fly through from one of her beautiful videos. In this third card that I'm painting, again, I've got the yellow down, then I've come in with the orange, which is just melding softly into the bottom of the yellow, and you can see me dipping directly into some alizarin crimson that I've got on my palette. So I'm just mixing it up a little bit as I change my mind during moving from one card to the next, because I've got all this beautiful paint already mixed up and just sitting there. It means that it's really easy to make each one a little bit different. But the method is the same each time. You use a light color, then you get a little bit darker, then you get a little bit darker, and the final touch is to do the trunk and the branches. And for each one, I've also come down and then I add a little bit of ground, just to give each tree the look that is actually on the ground. So now I'm up to my 4th tree already. Same method, lovely light yellow, come in with the orange, and then come in with the 3rd color and then the 4th color. In that one, I have just used the tiniest bit of orange and I've gone straight in for my darker color. What's key to the process is that you get darker and darker as you move down the tree. I start at the top and I move down, and I start at the top with really light tones, and as I go down the tree, I get darker and darker. And I think this helps give the tree a bit of a look of having some gravitas, that it does exist in that space. It doesn't look too ridiculous. On that trunk, I've gone for a bit of a wonky look, and that's always interesting. Trees do the most amazing things. You can also see in one of the views, it'll come up again in a second, I had a few reference photos with me. I take thousands of photos of trees, Australian trees mostly. I'm particularly fascinated with those, and so I had some references there. You can just see them now, just at the top of the screen there. Just in fact, they're quite local, those trees. When we go for walks around the suburb, those trees are quite near to where I live, and some of them have some beautiful bark peeling off, and oh, that's a better view. And I really love having references when I'm painting trunks and branches. It's really fascinating when you look at an image for how branches really do behave rather than making it up. I find if I make it up, sometimes it just doesn't work that well. I'm up to my 4th card and just about to go into the 5th card. Just putting in some final little touches on the 4th card with my little liner brush. There's a lot of work I did with the liner brush. Each of the cards, I used the liner brush to use a bit of clean water and go to the edges of the yellow and just soften it out, just to create some variation in the edges. So the brushes that I'm using here are Black Gold, they're Quill, that's the type of brush. The brand is Black Gold, and I really quite love using these. And that's the same method that I'm using over and over. It's where you come in with the light colour, you dab it and leave spaces for the birds to fly through. You come in with the next tone and keep moving down the page. That's where I'm softening the edges. This is a lovely thing to do to kind of give the tree a slightly rounder look if you go to the edge of the tree and you soften it off. Every single time I get darker and darker as I come down the tree. On this 5th card, I decided to just vary it a little bit. This is the Schminke Brown, Glacier Brown, it's called. It's one of those super granulating watercolors. And I'm using the little liner brush to draw branches and put in little tiny delicate details as you come down the tree. Some of the cards I left with rough edges, as in torn edges. So the card I'm working on at the moment has a torn edge. So I used a ruler and it gives that soft fuzzy edge, but not everyone likes that soft fuzzy edge. I find that everyone has quite a strong opinion about whether they like a torn edge or not. I think maybe more arty people love a torn edge because they're familiar with tearing paper. Oh, I'm on to my 6th card already. You can see the colours in my palette getting quite mixed together, but it doesn't matter in the least because the method is the same. Start with the light colour, move to a mid-tone, and when you're adding each tone as you come down, you're adding it into the wet surface so that you're getting all that beautiful wet in wet happening. You can see that I'm changing as I'm adding those tufts of branch because I'm onto the 6th card, and I find that when you do something and then you do it over and over again, you get faster and you take more risks. I love working in series like this. I do it all the time. In fact, this morning I taught the class that I teach at the local community college that I teach on weekdays, and I did this exact method with a warm-up exercise and a grevillea leaf, and people got looser and looser. And as I was going around and helping everyone, because I like to go around and give individual advice as well as teaching to the group as a whole, lots of people said that they found that by the 6th card, or it was a 6 square, they were really getting loose and starting to take chances, take some risks. If you do multiples, it's a lovely way to work to take some risks. So I've painted all 6 trees, all a little bit different. Each of them has similar colors, but all just that little bit different. So I signed them all just with my initials because I find that putting my whole name on a card size like that might have just made my name the subject of the whole card. But there they are, 6 finished cards. I made that card to suit the envelope. So I started with the envelope size, then I tore the paper to suit the envelope size, and then I packaged them up with some lovely cellophane bags. You can get recycled cellophane bags, which is very cool. And then I packaged them up and I took them to Hazelhurst Regional Gallery, which is my local gallery, and I take them up there to sell. If you've got any comments, I'd love to hear from you, and I answer everyone. Please like the video if you got anything out of it, or make any other suggestions. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Bye.